Welcome to the latest edition of the Omni Talk Spotlight Series, the series that spotlights the companies, the people, and the technologies that are shaping the future of retail. Or said another way, the podcast that focuses on tomorrow's companies today. I'm your host, Chris Walton.
And I'm Mezzenga.
And we are the founders of Omni Talk. And we are pleased to spotlight another one of the core technologies that is set to shape the future of retail. And I am talking about none other than visual AI. And so joining us to speak on that topic today and drop some knowledge on it for all you loyal Omni Talk listeners like it's hot is someone who, honestly, I've been asking or trying to get on this show, I think for 3 years now, and we finally landed him. And that is ViSenze Chief Commercial Officer, Brendan O'Shaughnessy. Brendan, how are you?
I'm very good, Chris. Great to see you again. Anne, good to see you again.
Yeah, we're excited about this. Brendan, for those people who might not be familiar, let's set the table. Give us a little bit of background on ViSenze and what it is that you guys do.
ViSenze are an AI product company that increase revenue for retailers around the world. We were founded in 2012, so we've been at the forefront of the development of visual AI as a service. And whilst our focus started out with visual search, which we refined over a number of years as sort of visual product search service, we now have a SaaS platform of AI services designed specifically for retail. And they now include visual product recommendations, product data tagging, product insights, as well as visual product search. So, our retail customers use our platform services to help their consumers find the right product faster, whether that be on mobile, desktop, mobile app, and even in store. And, when you get that right, consumers buy more from you. And,
Right.
That business impact is becoming clearer and clearer for retailers now. We're seeing tremendous growth in the business because, the ROI speaks for itself.
There's a lot of terms that you used even in that opening there, visual search and things like that. And I think there's a lot of misnomers about what that all means from a catch-all perspective too. So, one of the reasons I've been hounding you guys to come on the show for the past 3 years is I feel like you're able to give a really good practical rundown of where visual AI is actually gaining mind share in the marketplace amongst retailers. And you started to tease it out a little bit there, but, and I got to draw attention to the audience, to the mellifluous Irish accent that Brendan has too, as he's doing this, because I can't imagine anyone I'd rather listen to give a discourse on visual AI. But for your money, Brendan, as you strip it back, you said you've been in this business almost 10 years. Where are you seeing the most traction in the marketplace around visual AI right now?
Well, I think what we're seeing is product recommendations and personalization strategies are probably definitely the hottest ticket right now.
Okay.
We all know, right? We've seen e-commerce boom over the last few years. But that means, more players fighting to promote the right product in front of more consumers. So there's a very crowded landscape out there with tremendous choice available to consumers, which is great. But it also makes it more difficult for consumers to find the right product, whether that's a specific product that they're looking for, or through the right type of product inspiration that can lead a consumer to buy. So I think in 2020 we embarked on a major product upgrade where we developed several new recommendation algorithms, and we also re-architected all of our AI services to bring them together in a single platform. We call that Discovery Suite.
Discovery,
the name
okay.
speaks for itself.
Yeah,
and it's really designed to make it easy for retailers, whether they be big or small, to deliver better revenue outcomes. We launched Discovery Suite in 2021, and we've seen, retailers, our existing customers and new customers get really excited about our recommendation algorithms. And these are, AI-powered recommendation algorithms. There's it's 7 forget. But those in particular, because they're clear revenue drivers, and this comes back to the overarching product discovery challenge. You can have the best or best price products in the market, but if your consumers can't easily discover them, you're going to find it hard, to sell them.
So you're saying it's like really, there's just a tremendous amount of value here just to be had in like garden variety, better product recommendations on site through the analytics that visual AI can provide. Is that, am I saying that right in a nutshell? Like, are we talking about like things as simple as like, I'm thinking like, hey, you like this is something that's actually truly similar to what you are looking for. And we know that because of all the things that are going on behind the scenes. Is it that simple and straightforward, or
It's
what am I missing?
it's even simpler in a way.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because
Love that.
we're firmly of the belief that for many retailers, the best signal of intent from their consumers is what they're looking at right now. We put a great store and value of what people are looking at today on their PDP. So they click into PDP, it's a great signal, all right? It's a great intent signal. And our recommendation algorithms, because it's built on visual AI, we're not really caring about, who you are or what you might have bought before or what other people have bought. We're focused on what you're interested in right now. And you've given us that signal intent by clicking on that product. And our recommendation carousels sit on those PDPs, and our visually similar recommendation really is tied to the product that the customer is looking at. Now, like I said, this is all automated, fully AI driven, and we're able to use our visual AI engine to find the right products from the merchant's catalog to show similar products to the product the customer is interested in. And we find that works really, really well, and particularly in some use cases. But I'll give you an example. We worked with, we engaged with the Essilor Group in early 2021. And, we ran some recommendation experiments with one of their online brands called iBuyDirect. They service multiple markets. US is one of the big markets for them. And they wanted to test our visually similar recommendations against their existing recommendation engine. So, we worked with them. We worked with them to really find out what worked best, right? And we have several recommendation algorithms that our customers can choose from. Visually similar is just one of them. But it worked really, really well for iBuyDirect. It was a great success. They saw a 20% increase in click-through rate within the first month. Their order value increased by nearly 3%. And what we learned together was it was because our visually similar recommendations aligned strongly to how consumers buy eyewear. We tend to buy eyewear by frame shape. And a visually similar recommendation engine is designed to deliver great results for consumers who shop that way. When it comes to eyewear, it's really about finding, putting to the side those frame shapes that I'm not particularly interested in. Again, using the PDP is a great signal of intent. And that's a great example, I think, of how visually similar works really well. And we see that working well for apparel. We see it working well for furniture as well.
I interviewed the CEO of iBuyDirect, Sunny Zhang, a while back for our Women's Collective podcast. But I think one of the most interesting things that she said that you just hit on, Brendan, is it's difficult, especially with a category where you're so used to having that in-person visual experience, to try that on in person. And when you have a catalog like they do of, thousands of brands, of own brands, of, Ray-Ban, of other private label brands, to really be able to refine and narrow that search. And I've used their platform to help select glasses. And it is so much simpler from the customer's perspective too, to really be able to, narrow that search and almost make it like an experience you'd have in store, where you're able to have somebody saying, yes, if you like this one, then this is probably the closest frame for you, or different colors and that kind of thing.
Well, they even took it a step further. Saw a great result after the first month. We continue to work with them. We still work with them today. They're a great partner of ours. But they took it a step further, and rather than just focus on the carousel, on that PDP, they decided to say, let's not try to fit everything into that carousel. So if you go onto iBuyDirect today, you'll see probably 3 clicks to the right. You'll see a tile which says, click here for all similar. And when you click that brings you to a dedicated page, which only displays frames of similar shape. Right. And that's all automatically powered by ViSenze's AI recommendation engine.
Brendan, what you just described is very different than the traditional visual search definition, right? Because the way I think about it is you're saying what's happening is triggered off the customer's interaction with the PDP. It's the customer directing what they're interested in based on what's already in the catalog at that given retailer, and then using visual AI behind the scenes to serve up recommendations, which is a far different from the net that the word visual search casts, so to speak. And so that's right. And so just so everyone understands what we're talking about here, and that's why we do this show, is to piece apart all this, because so many times in conversations, we hear things lumped together, and there's so much more at play here, especially when you start talking, like we said in the beginning, the practical points for where you can implement these types of ideas. But
yeah. And I think one thing we want to talk about, Chris alluded to it earlier, is this idea around catalog enrichment. Where does that sit for you guys, Brendan, in terms of, what you're seeing in the market and how this is being applied?
It's tagging products with better data, right?
Right.
Right.
And it's loved by retailers because it just works. We, for fashion products, for apparel, we have over 230 product attributes that we can map to a merchant's products at speed, a fully automated way. It delivers great accuracy and delivers fantastic consistency, right? Which is what you get from an automated service rather than a human created service.
This is happening manually right now, right? I mean, or in some cases
Some
they're running a
retailers.
script or something like that, but it's not using visual attributes.
Oftentimes, Anne, it's not happening at all. That's
Right.
actually that's a universal problem in the industry.
Yeah.
Every retailer is suffering from a lack of data, and it goes beyond the retailers. It actually then impacts other technology providers, other technology solutions that retailers use, whether it's personalization engines,
Sure.
whether it's text search engine. At the heart of visual search, what's behind visual search is what's called a vector search engine, all right?
Mhm.
And it's specific paradigm of technology, which visual search, it's a key pillar of visual search. But it also has other applications, and it's that ability for technology to understand, interpret an image and make sense of it, and then apply that in a way. And that's where our AI is developed, from visual search originally to recommendations, to
Right.
attribute tagging, etc. Because it is essentially our technology's ability to understand an image, whether it's an image you're searching for, whether it's an image you're looking at, so we can find similar images,
Currently, right.
or whether it's an image we can interpret and then create the attribute data that can best describe that image. And that's where our AI enrichment service, comes into its own. So like I said, it's a universal problem that all retailers suffer from. And it's that lack of accurate searchable data, right? And what we find is that retailers who use our service, they see an immediate improvement in their text search engine performance.
Sure.
It also helps their
Right.
search rankings.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I thought about that when we were talking earlier. Like, you just think about what my search terms would be going into, an apparel site,
yeah.
long red dress versus, strapless long red dress, like all these things that visual
Yeah.
search can attribute that, if I was manually inputting this thing, I would never
Right.
think
Yeah.
of all of the possible things that everybody could see.
Right. I'd say slinky red dress.
You'd
for
say,
example.
yeah,
Right.
we
You
have
know,
all these terms. It's a
that's how
good
I
thing
go.
you're not searching
Right.
for red dresses,
No,
because
it
I
is.
don't want to know what comes up when you search slinky red dress.
Right. That's true.
But,
Well,
you
maybe.
But
Go ahead,
you're
Brendan.
saying- what you're saying there is, but what you're saying,
It's
what's
key though,
good
right?
is- It absolutely, it's key, because how you search is going to be different from how Anne searches, how I search. The words we use, the phrase we use, it's all going to be different. And there's no way retailers typically have that range of data associated with the product.
For sure.
I was talking to an executive from a leading tech search company recently, and they told me that when they tried our tagging service on their customers' data set, one customer in particular, I spoke to their customer and said, any bump, how's it going? Did you see that improvement in text search? And, the customer's feedback was, listen, your text search engine is now performing better than my recommendation engine, that I'm paying, somebody else for.
Right.
So it has a really, that enrichment has a really positive impact for retailers. And, it's something that we've looked at how we can better help small and medium retailers to benefit from this. So, very recently we built the ViSenze app for Shopify.
Oh.
And we redesigned our tagging flow so that today a Shopify merchant can, in 3 simple clicks, ingest their product catalog from Shopify to our ViSenze Discovery Suite, auto tag it in minutes, and republish that back to Shopify. So
Wow.
that doesn't require any front-end code deployment. It doesn't
Right.
require any back-end integration effort, but they're going to see a great improvement in their search rankings, and their great improvement in the performance and accuracy of their on-site text search. And that's going to be a great service for many small and medium retailers, and very easy to execute.
Which is a super important point too, because what we're talking about here is fairly easy to implement and execute, at least to get a trial going to see, how it works in comparison to what you're doing today. Right. Like, I mean, that's what's so cool about what you guys are doing on the Shopify front too, and helping small businesses, because having run e-commerce for Target at home, like you're right. All this stuff was, and you're right. We were putting all this in manually. Now, this was 8 to 10 years ago. Imagine it's advanced somewhat, but for a lot of retailers, it probably hasn't, especially the small and medium-sized
Right.
guys. Like, so this is something that they can pretty much do with a pretty low lift. But my question for you, Brendan, going back to what we said before, because we asked you to start with, okay, where are you seeing the heat the most in the market? Why are product recommendations taking hold faster than, say, catalog enrichment? Because to me, it would actually feel like catalog enrichment would be the place to start. Like, I want the data on my site to be as accurate as possible. Why is that? Why do you think we're seeing that? Why is the market moving in that direction?
I think it's I think it comes back to what I said earlier about it being a strong revenue driver, right? And I think people,
easily attributable.
It is, and I think across the industry, if you think about some of the buzzwords today, it's personalization, it's product discovery. Right. Tech search engines are 20, 30 years old in terms of the core technologies. It's not that nobody's really focused on tech search optimization at this point in time, right, even though it can deliver a great impact on your business if you can get the underlying data sets right.
Brendan, so I'm getting ready for a presentation that I'm going to be giving at Shop Talk. And one of the things that we're talking about is, future technologies in retail and how they can be applied today. I wonder, you say visual AI, I think it gets lumped into this bigger like visual search idea. How do you at ViSenze define that term, and where do you feel like the market is in terms of like adopting this, what once was, a more future leaning technology, or sounds that way when you're talking about broader visual AI?
We're a 10-year-old company, and we were at the forefront then of helping to develop today's visual search capabilities. Right. I'm really confident that the opportunity for visual search is still ahead of us. We're 100%. Seeing, and we would all know, right? Visual search is not the most common way or frequent way consumers today search for products. It's not live on every commerce platform today. But if I break it down, we used to be known as the visual search company, and I said earlier, the heart of everything we do is our AI powered vector search engine, and that's a key pillar for visual search. But it's not limited to that, right? Sure. Our core technology can support more capabilities, and that's why we developed Discovery Suite with recommendations and enrichment, and we're also deeply invested in analytics and insights, because again, the ability to understand products better through analysis of the image associated with those products, or analysis of what customers are searching for, or how they're engaging and navigating to those products that they're buying. There's great value in being able to understand that, and visual AI really delivers a great capability there. But I think what we're seeing is an increased demand worldwide for those visual AI services, and I would include visual search in that, as well as what we've been talking about in terms of recommendations or tagging. And it's not because AI or visual AI is seen to be cool. There's a lot of buzzwords out there. We're all fighting for mind share, but it's because we're solving retailers' problems for them. And but visual search as a service itself, it's still very much in growth mode. In mobile first markets like India, and we've seen this in the East in particular, China has a lot of activity around visual search. We work with a major global sportswear brand. We work with several major global sportswear brands. And we see the amount of traffic they generate in China is significantly higher than the kind of behavior we see in the West. And that's I think a trend that we're seeing that is built up over time. But as we move west, we're seeing that evolve. But in mobile first markets like India, visual product search is now seen as a core capability for consumers. It's simply easier for more consumers there to find products that way. And I think that trend we're seeing, we've seen consistently in the East, we're seeing it move, as we go west. We in Europe, we work with a major global fashion marketplace, and they've been working with us for a number of years. They've had visual search within their app. They don't have it on their desktop. So again, it's about finding the right spot for it, the right place for it. But what they've discovered and what they've learned over the last number of years is visual search, whilst it might be a smaller proportion of usage, it gets used, and that usage is growing. But importantly, it also converts better than browse behavior. right? So, the learnings are there. And what that tells retailers is, I have a valuable asset here. How do I get it more widely adopted, more widely used? So this retailer, this marketplace in particular, is redesigning their UI to make that more prominent and easier to use. Just last week we signed a 2-year deal with a major UK retailer for a recommendation service, right? Our AI recommendation services, but they're also about to launch our visual product search, and they're doing that because, as I said to us, they see it as something they should have. And I think that realization and the greater awareness of visual search and all things visual AI is increasing. We're seeing it increase year on year, and I think we're seeing that evidence now in the West as well.
Yeah, so Brendan, that you brought up a lot of good points there, and one of the questions it raises for me is when you think about the landscape of retail, and you think about the big guys, let's say at Google, where in theory visual search feels like just like something that they should inherently just kind of own or be really good at or help facilitate to some degree. But, the question I come back to is it really for them, or is it the way you're describing it almost feels like it's dependent upon the retailers and the brands to adopt this technology first to actually be able to serve up the right data in a platform like a Google. Is that true? Am I extrapolating that correctly from what you're saying? Or how should the listeners think about that? How should I and Ann think about that question too?
If you take Google are very good at visual search. They're as good as ViSenze. Right. But where ViSenze differentiate is we're very focused on visual product search.
Right.
And Google go very wide. I can use Google visual search to find out what plant is in my garden, what tree is in my garden. Okay. But what we focus on is designing visual search to work within a retail capacity. And that means high degree of accuracy and recognition for products, okay, across categories. And I think that's where we specialize. So we're almost like a vertical visual search engine or provider, whereas Google are a more horizontal provider. And what that means is for us, for retailers who use our solution, it's more of an out-of-the-box solution, all right? For somebody to adopt Google's visual search, it requires a lot of heavy lifting to train models, to develop, to integrate that, and to get it working to a level of accuracy, and we call it makes it worthwhile and impactful. So I think we've had a great start working with with any new technology or emerging technology. It does tend to be the bigger players, and I'm talking about retailers and merchants here, who tend to adopt these first. They're the ones who have innovation teams. They're the ones who are looking to experiment and get ahead of the innovation curve, right? But over the last number of years, as we productize our core AI technology, now we're at a point where, as the market matures, we're now better able to support those mid-market and those SMB retailers to benefit the same way as the Adidas's and the Gucci's and so on of this world. And I think that's really important in terms of broadening the presence of visual search and visual AI as a service, and educating and putting it in front of consumers. All right. And I think that's probably where it's going to land. The retail space will be one key area where we'll see a greater adoption, a faster adoption of visual search and visual AI capabilities. And through that, consumers are going to become more familiar. I really do believe, and from the evidence we capture from our customer base, when consumers start using it, they keep using it. All right, because it works, and it works really, really well. So I think it's a bit of a chicken and an egg, which comes first. But I think for us, we're focused very much on the merchant marketplace, brand, retailer space, and driving adoption there, which in turn passes through to consumers.
At the end of the day, I mean, it feels like the linchpin of this is still the catalog going back to the catalog enrichment discussion too. If you don't start there as a retailer specifically, because Google can't do that or some search engine can't do that, you have to start with the quality of the data through that type of process to then enable the better conversion, and then to enable the visual search capabilities either on site or through your own brand or through another search platform too, right? I mean, that has to be the fundamental of where this starts. And that's, I mean, the more I'm thinking about it, that has to come back to the retailers or the brands. And you're saying that you expect to see some big activity heavily in the mid-market to that end here over the next few years.
I absolutely think so. I think the the opportunity for this is with any retailer. All right. And I mean that it works on big and smaller retailers. the challenge, I think, across the industry is that education, letting retailers know that these services are available and affordable and easy to adopt. And I think that's really key.
Yeah.
What I mentioned about the Shopify integration we did, that was tagging in 3 steps, right? There's no code deployment. There's no, integration heavy lift. It's just, install a Shopify app and log in, and the rest happens in 3 clicks.
Chris, it reminds me of what we were talking about back at NRF when we're talking about AI in general, and just how it starts with these practical applications. Like, what business problems are you solving with the technology? This case, it's cataloging and getting your product
over
data
and over and over again.
Exactly. And now, once you've done that, you get to, expand those capabilities into offering visual search for customers. But Brendan, what else is available for the retailers that you're working with? Once they kind of set this foundation and they get started on the basic, simple, like cataloging portion of this, how else can they think about deploying visual AI?
Yeah, where's it go next?
Yeah.
We've talked about 3 things where it's kind of here and now. Where's it go next?
If you take those core capabilities, you can then translate and apply them for many, many use cases. You can apply them for returns, processing, the ability to many returns come back without labels. So the ability to recatalog and restock and
that's
distribute those
amazing.
products.
Yeah, that's true.
Is a very,
I remember
very
looking at style tags at J. Crew, like trying to find them out inside a garment. Like, what was the style number of this thing, and how do I look it up so I can return it? That's
washed
so
out and
brilliant.
stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and that's it. It's if you can solve some of those problems, you remove pain points, right? You increase efficiencies, and that's back in operations. So we work with a major luxury retailer who use our visual search capability for 2 non-consumer use cases. They use this for visual merchandising.
Right.
So, our visual search capability is built into an iPad application that their merchandising staff use to take images of in-store displays. And our visual search is then used to identify the products on those shelves and make sure the right product is on the shelf as per the planogram. So it's a planogram of merchandising compliance process.
Compliance tool,
But it also then delivers, real-time in-store performance metrics, sales metrics. You can then begin to see how a display A performs against display B in 2 different stores in the same city, right? So great way to explore how visual search can solve a different type of problem. Other in-store use cases, same luxury brand uses for a clienteling app. Their store associates use visual search within an app that they carry on an iPhone in store to help deliver better customer experience and find price lookup for different products. Major sportswear brand use our visual search for product scanning and in-store product scanning, and that's a consumer use case. But it's not an online product search where you're uploading an image or using your camera to take an image. With this one, it's really exciting because it solves that problem when we all go in to buy shoes, where you're waiting to see whether that shoe on the wall is available in your size. You wait for an associate to come over and duck into the storeroom and come back to you 10 minutes later and say no, and you try again and again and again. And with our visual search, it's been incorporated into a consumer app that allows the consumer to walk into that sports store and just scan any sneaker on the wall. And we in real time identify that sneaker, recognize it with 99% accuracy, and we retrieve the product and size information. So you can see at a glance whether your size 9 or size 10 is in stock. Right. And you can just click a button on the phone which says, bring it to me, and an associate will bring it out onto the shop floor.
Gosh. So much nicer.
I've been waiting for that day, Ann, since we first theorized about that capability, 10 years ago in our previous job. But yeah, no, that's awesome to hear.
It's fantastic. So I think there's some of the key use cases beyond the consumer ones. There's one which is very close to our heart here at ViSenze, something we're co-developing with one of our customers here in Singapore, actually. And that is solving a major problem for buyers and planners and merchandise, right? And that's knowing what to spend your budget on, what products to buy and why. And we're building what we call an assortment planning capability, which we're very, very excited about. And it's using AI to analyze past performance in terms of purchases. It's using our visual AI services to match products to trends, to identify which vendors are selling, which suppliers are selling which products, to wrap all of that up and make purchasing recommendations to buyers and planners. And, you know, some of the benchmark testing we've been doing with one of our partners here is showing great outperformance against the current manual process. So it's a really innovative way to use visual AI technology in a way that's, you know, again, a very impactful use case across the retail industry.
Wow, I didn't think you were going to drop assortment planning there at the end. We're going to have you back and maybe dig into that one as that one gets going more. I mean, God, with our history of assortment planning tools throughout the years, going all the way back to Retech in the early 2000s, God, a lot of battle scars on that one. But God, yeah, we'll have to have you back and talk about that one, Brendan. Well, that was, and I love that conversation. I thought it was great. This is exact content I love to do because I thought we clicked into like a very common term, visual AI, visual search. Gave you guys, hopefully the listeners, a very good framework for the different components of it, how to think about it. That's why we do what we do. Helps make us sharper. I learned a ton. I know, Anne, you probably did too.
Absolutely.
Brendan, if people want to continue this conversation with you, learn more about what it is you guys do, how you might be able to help them, what's the best way for them to do that?
Look, check out our website, ViSenze.com. If you want to send an inquiry at ViSenze.com. You can reach us there. Check us out on LinkedIn. And you mentioned Shop Talk next month. Hopefully we'll see you guys there. And if anybody wants to, get in touch with us at Shop Talk, we'll be there in Las Vegas, and we look forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for those watching and listening. That was Brendan O'Shaughnessy, ViSenze Chief Commercial Officer. Brendan, thanks so much for joining us today. It was a blast. Glad we got to do this after talking about it for 3 years.
Chris, absolute pleasure. Love to chat some more, and really appreciate the time today. Thank you.
Absolutely. To new beginnings for everyone. All right. Well, hey, that closes us up. Thanks as always for listening in to our conversation with Brendan today. On behalf of Anne, myself, and Brendan, as always, be careful out there.